National Day of Truth and Reconciliation is an opportunity for all Canadians to recognize the trauma inflicted upon Indigenous peoples through so-called residential schools. Residential schools were an institution whose entire purpose was to strip children and Indigenous peoples of their culture, language, and identity. Indigenous children were forcibly removed from their families and communities to attend these institutions and were subject to horrific abuse. Recognizing such harms is critical because before we can have reconciliation, we all need to take the time to learn and understand the ongoing impacts of the harms that were committed. Reconciliation is a process of healing to move past the impacts of residential schools and colonization on Indigenous peoples. It is multifaceted and must be led by and done in partnership with Indigenous peoples. It involves supporting the recovery of Indigenous languages and culture, working with Indigenous governments to advance self-determination, closing the infrastructure gap that Indigenous peoples face, addressing the barriers to economic development, and tackling the root causes of systemic discrimination. As an MP, these topics represent the overriding priorities for me and the Government of Canada, while cultivating relationships based on trust with the 4 First Nations in my riding is indispensable in this aim. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action are a playbook for how we put this into practice. Today, on September 30th, we mark the 2nd annual National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, a key call to action from the Commission. I invite you to listen and learn from Indigenous communities and residential school survivors and take personal acts of reconciliation by reading, watching, attending public events, listening, and learning. Thank you.